Well, Chinese government now try very hard to restore Chinese medicine. They release so much policy for getting Chinese medicine knowledge into the primary school textbooks and the middle schools textbooks. So, and then also give kind of folk doctor, the doctor in the countryside, have a much more kind of a permission than ever used before, because before they have to pass the examination for license, all of that. But that's from the government point of view. But and the Chinese people quite concerned because because the really good Chinese medicine doctor died a lot, so it's not much left. So that's one of the reason. And then the people getting old of the doctor now, there's still few, but not much. So there's still quite lots of discussion how to restore it. So but also there's tendency could be like to see how Chinese medicine can linked with science. There's many things that they try to explore.
Yeah, because you were saying that the Chinese government was trying to link Western medicine with Chinese medicine, and the Chinese medicine was saying, actually, we're different from Western medicine, and the Western medicines were saying, actually, we're different from Chinese medicine. But then, so they were both agreeing, but then the government said, no, that's not good enough, right?
Yes, that's why they try to get them married. So they put them in the same, world when the pandemic, the COVID-19. So they push them together to save patients. But eventually the doctor find, it works when they're making effort together. Some of the patients get much better. So that's why the Western medicine doctors start to recognize the Chinese medicine does work. Those kind of things are happening in China.
How many classical doctors do you think are left in China these days?
I'm not really in the statistics department. It's very difficult to answer because from my understanding, as there 30 years ago, the statistics said, I think now that there won't be left more than 200 the real classical Chinese medicine doctor in China, because a lot of them already passed away. If we do talking the classical Chinese medicine doctor, there could be some new, their soul carry their memory, and also they practice about Huangdi Neijing and Qigong or internal alchemy. So they carried the essence inside. And even though they still need to have some clinic experience and a skill to be able to fulfill we call it the real one, because even people could be, we're talking this kind of a concept, the reincarnate. So if even people, the soul, they carried some memory, but if they landing in this life, so each age, like the period of time, like in between 80 years, there's society change a lot. So there's a lot of different situation and the changes. So that's why they need to learn how to adapt for yeah, for those people too. For example, there's much more Western medicine around. There's much more emphasis about the science and technology. And even in China, the whole environment and people much more believe and technology in the Western science rather than ancient Chinese medicine. So those are all the new situation. They have to learn how to adapt to this kind of situation to keep the ancient practice.
Mm. What are the methods for adapting though? Because say these people are incarnating in as a new soul and they don't have a doctor to train with to learn the relevant clinical experience. What is that avenue for them?
Well, so my observation, I find is quite interesting phenomenon. I noticed that in China, this time when I was in China, I come across quite lots of healer, and they start open sort of energy healing clinic, which is not necessarily the decline. There's the medical treatment because they cannot. You have to get medical training and qualified to be able to open a clinic. But there's quite some of the people open this kind of like bone adjusting and trainer on this type of clinic. I looked at their soul. They could be they're immortal, reincarnated, and then they know how to dealing with the energy and also the human body. But funny enough, they have been trained as science or technician in the first period of their life. For example, they were graduate in mathematics or technology and physics and whatever, and then they were doing the high tech. They're in the social mediums. They're in the market, but the main training is Western science. But like I know one person, but his son is very sick. He just couldn't find any way to get better. So that's why he decided and tried to find a way to resolve that. So that's why he must be guided. So, and then he got rid of his job and then start fully concentrate to learn the the spiritual practice, energy practice, and then he's looking for quite lots of a master, like either Chinese medicine doctor, the old doctors, or kind of good I Ching master. So he actually can know so many people like this. And then eventually himself opened this type of the healing center. So yeah, so even the people in the very, very high level department in China as like scientists working on the high tech. But interestingly, I get some way to get know them. They are quietly practice all the spiritual practice and the meditation. And then they practice a healing healing modality, and then they are very committed to that. So I was amazingly surprised how many scientists has been doing that work. So that's why now I'm start training scientists who are very, very in tune to this.
So that's interesting. It seems like that you could say that the essence of who they are, because of the times they've either chosen or they've just happened to enter a different field, and through what they've already known from past lives or who they are, they're able to integrate that into what they're doing right now. Is that sort of what you're saying in a way?
Yeah, I had a feeling like the whole world is going to be developed as family, one family. So their humanity and then their destiny, and then there should be us in common all together. So in this case,
Mm.
so we were used. We have the idea like science never touched the spirituality, and economists never touched the their spiritual practice. So this age, and that's error is going to be passed. That's for me
Mm.
my understanding, because now in the future the loss of soul we are learning. They're learning the new age. That's a new age. Is not like people talking about the hippie new age. I mean like the new human. So for the next civilization, they're so going to carry it, the ancient wisdom and the knowledge. At the same time, they are open, fully trained and prepared to learn the new technology and the new the knowledge about the science. And then they could have last time we were talking about the Chinese medicine is like a space, uh, and then they're dealing with the space. So that's why they're thinking, and for a classical Chinese medicine doctor or the master, their way of thinking is about the holistic thinking, and also the intuitive thinking, their inspirational thinking, and so those kind of a way of thinking is which is in the old day science. It doesn't want to touch that because they feel intuition is no evidence base. There's no material can be proved. So it's all based on the emotion, and that's very, very dangerous because the science need to be very cool, very material, very fact based, very logic, very calm, to dealing with the fact. But can you imagine the Taoist thinking is much more systematic thinking because the universe is a big system, right?
Mm.
Complex system, and the Earth is a complex system, and also the society is a complex system, and the human body is a complex system. It's one cell, no single cell, it's also a complex system. So that's why, and the true picture what's for classical Chinese medicine and also for ancient science, they always acknowledge that complex system is existing in our life. For example, the I Ching talking three major characters. Yi means changing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Means constantly changing. So that's why like a qi, like energy, they never stay still, they're constant changing. Okay. And then yi also means simplicity. That means, and their ancient wisdom, they know they're so complex, but when you will try to dealing that, you need to learn how to synthesize them and then categorize them, and make the simplicity, and then to be able to catch the key point. For example, the Chinese medicines, like when you treat patient's whole body, they have this problem, and head, headache and feet pain, and a stomach ache, and a chest pain, and have vomiting, and have a knee pain. So that's why there's so many symptoms. How could you find the sense can be covered all of that? But if you know meridians, you start realize all of that symptoms, and they are going along the stomach meridians. So
Mm.
that simplicity sense will connecting all of the symptoms from your headache to your, vomiting stomach, because the stomach meridians flow from top down. But when they flow not to work, so that's why you feel sick, because they reverse way to flow. So that's why make the knee pain and make the foot pain. So because they're stagnant. I'm just give that examples about how could and the doctors could have that big system, big database in mind to be able to simplify to diagnose, because you know that. So you immediately identify all of the symptoms along that meridians as the stomach. So when you will get stomach meridians qi full and the blood full to flow, and then you will immediately know why this person's stomach meridians feel weak. And then that person go to bed very late when they are in the morning in between 7 to 9 o'clock, and then they still sleep. And this time, the sunrise, stomach meridian need to be active, and then the blood need to be flow, and the qi need to be flow, and the flow with the sunrise, the universal energy rise. But when you sleep, you don't rising up, so you blocked that meridians. But also when you understand the science and the Western medicine, you start to understand, oh, wow. And stomach meridians means plenty of the qi and plenty of the blood. So in the Western medicine, that's actually associated with the immune system. So therefore, when you understand Western science and the Western medicine and terminology and the Western medicine and the diagnosis and the way of the looking things, you combine on the Chinese medicine, is that, oh, I see, Western immune system actually can be equivalent with the stomach meridian's weakness. So that is what I mean, complexity system. So that complexity system, when you were cross the boundary, cross the border of the division of the each kind of like separation of the, okay, that's the digestion disease. That's the head disease. That's the like breathing systems. That the knee and the bone systems. So that's why when the Western medicine actually look the body as machine, as kind of fact. So, but the Chinese medicine looks like, the stomach meridian is like a river, invisible flow to all of that, the different parts, which is connecting all of that part. So that's why if you have those kind of thinking and understand each other, what's their view, what they're talking about, and then you can be simplified and then use that knowledge to find the answer, and then that's in I Ching called simplicity. Right? You got the key point, and now also because for the space, how could you make the space large and also to be able to make your house, because your physical body connecting with the environment, connecting different people, you have a different role in the family. You are the son of your parents, but some people you are the parents of your children, and then you're the husband with your wife. You're the friends of your and your man friends and then colleague. So all of that is interaction. So that's why the I Ching and the Chinese medicine will look about the movement of those interaction, and then they are almost like understanding that each different space, how how to interacting with each other, and then you find the main issues. When you find the main issues as they are correct diagnosed, you can get the result about how to make correct the treatment to rebalance the system. So that means the E, the simplicity. Okay. But talking about the three character of the E, another character is called E means never change. So I want to share that because I'm actually training this scientist recently for understanding about the Chinese medicine and the internal alchemy. And what is interesting, because I'm talking the whole world and then designed as their rhythms and the cycles. For example, why you're still alive? Because you trust the sun will come out next day. So and you know, the moon cycles is the 15 days and 1 month. So there's a full moon, a new moon, but the sun comes, and there's the cycles. So those cycles will support our human life in the earth for millions of years, right? So those things is called not changing. Why? Because that's what we need to understand. For human being need to understand our life in the big cycles. So that's why 4 times for health is the fundamental gateway for people who practice well and then discipline well enough to practice to be able to understand what it means to be a sage. Because we in the many times we're talking about, you know, classical Chinese medicine doctor is almost like a sage. Why? Because the sage understands the design of the yin and yang in the universe on the earth. So because we have so much planet, they have an orbit moving around on their sun. And the earth is one of the planet, and also moving on the sun as the circles. And then our earth itself also have their own cycles moving by themselves. So the internal alchemy is their way to understand what each different cycles to move. For example, people practice and energy that starts spontaneous movement. That means they're resonant with the movement of the earth, the vibration on the earth themselves. But when they're doing the Maoyo cycles is a full time for health is the Maoyo cycles, and then they are resonant with the earth cycles, rotating vibration and cycles. And if they are opening up Ren and then Du cycles, meridians, so there's that in line with the moon cycles. If they're clear up the 12 meridians and then the whole flow, so that's why they're resonant with the cycles of the sun orbit. So that's why, you know, the ancient time, they are so wise to understand those things doesn't change. Why? Because they are the fundamental base program for human. So if that's called Tao. Okay, if you understand the Tao, you are followed. That's the cycles. So that is called go with the flow. But now you can see the human, they're totally against that because they think that energy that can take ginseng, they will last forever. So that's completely out of the tune. Ginseng is just temporarily for certain cases. But if you really want to your life cycles moving on, you must be respect sun and the moon, the cycles to move. That's in I Ching they called not moving. Why they called not change? Sorry, not moving. It's not change. Why they not change? That means those fundamental program and the setting is already there for human life or for every life being on the earth, because the animal and the trees, they follow the 4 seasons, right? So the leaves fall down on the autumn, the leaves growing on the spring. So because they're all based at and the same non-change principles. Okay, so that's why in I Ching has non-change, changing all the time. Right? And simplicity. So that's why people are always confused that, oh God, the Chinese medicine is so complicated. They're contradictory to themselves. They said they change all the time, and then they said no change. And then they said the complexity, complicated system, and then they said the simplicity. They didn't realize they're talking about the different layer and then different program and different phenomenon in a different kind of aspect. So that's why if you are become very, very good classical Chinese medicine practitioners and doctors, so that means you need to fully understand how that system works.
Yeah, it's very interesting because generally in the Western world, we have a reductionistic mindset. Do you feel the reason for that, or a large reason for that, is because we've separated ourselves from nature? Because for a lot of people hearing this, these types of things may seem so surreal or so just otherworldly, because the more you study Chinese medicine and hear about it, you realize how intelligent it is and who were the people that figured this stuff all out. Is the reason they were able to figure this out because they were so connected to these fundamental principles you were talking about? Or how did that occur? What's the differences between the West and the East in this regard?
Yes. That's very, very good questions. In the West, people always try to find the unknown sense by looking through the eyes. If they cannot find eyes, they make machine, the horoscope, right? Telescope. And so it's like they're expanding their eyes by technology. But in the Eastern, they try to find the truth by looking inside, by looking into their body, and then through the calmness, through the no-mind state, through the in tune, what is the body feels, how the body works, how those meridian works, and then when they practice the deep meditation by inward connection. So therefore, they start to experience enormous kind of phenomenons, because in China there's some book talking about the innervation phenomenon. So someone practice innervation. They start to see lots of pictures. So they joint how each organs connecting with the stars.
Mm.
The energetic connecting different stars and then how to connect it. And then the whole book is quite thick and then describing what happening. So by doing so, they are actually through their body, which is a bio machine. If we use very harsh words, our
Sure.
body is almost a biocomputer. So through that, our eco biocomputer ecosystem, and then to find out, wow, my God. So those things are actually connecting outside. So for example, in one of the scientists, she's a mathematician. Since she was practice Qigong internal alchemy with me, she said, oh my God. So since I'm doing the meditate, I'm trying to empty my mind so I can understand mathematics better. I can smell things more. I can recognize outside world much more efficient or much more kind of like, more detail, more sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
So she gave me quite lots of examples, like she can identify the people passing by her. She smelled the smell of that person's body, which she said she never can smell that because she used to have a nose problem. But since she meditates, she can feel her nose opening up, her lung is more healthy. She can smell much, much more. She said, oh my God, it tends to be our body and all of the five senses as like a super technology, like a detective sense, which the more you're going deep, more calm, seems that the more sensitive, more efficient. Can you imagine the person who is mathematician, very, very logic? She said she will never really recognize anything not been proved. but since she was practicing, she said, oh my God, that's all happened on myself. And then she actually healed her kind of allergy on her nose, because that's happening every year. But since she was practiced, she actually stopped. And then she said, wow, Chinese medicine is really so powerful. So that's why it inspired her to try to find what is the inner connection, what's that mathematic connection in that kind of a big system.
Mm. So through looking to the inside, you are able to understand the outside so much better, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Mm.
Yeah, because we are a holograph system. So that's why people were thinking we go outside, find something else. But they forgot, well, the truth actually within.
Mm. That's a very...
The answer, yeah,
Go
the
on.
answer within. Mm-hmm.
Mm. That's a very important point, which can get lost in, I think, ideas and like hippie new age nonsense. Is it something you have to experience, do you feel, that it's within rather than just being words?
You got to practice. That's linked with lots of willpower.
Mm.
And yeah, it need to have a self-discipline, because a lot of people, they think their mind is so strong when they understand that they should be okay, but doesn't happening like this. Because if you understand, you never experience that, is far away to truly understand, because you understand concept, but not necessarily you know what it is.
Yes.
Like, for example, I trained those scientists. They just said, wow, there's so much beyond my imagination.
Absolutely. So I guess this would link into the question which we were talking about before, which is the future of Chinese medicine from what you're seeing in China. And of course, because you practice in the West for so long, do you see what a classical doctor used to be thousands of years ago changing into something what they will be now? Or do you have any sort of ideas of the general direction it would be heading, or some good steps that people could take or help produce, which could further the original nature of the art of Chinese medicine?
I used to be very pessimistic because I feel, all of the doctors died. They didn't left what the knowledge, they take those knowledge into the graveyard, take away. But now I identified quite lots of young people. They're older soul. So therefore I start to realize, maybe those older doctors that reincarnated into the new body. So, or even reincarnated into scientist body, were so funny phenomenon. So that means we could have a very interesting new civilization. People start not rigid about their thinking science must be logic, or the Chinese medicine and doctor were thinking scientists are just ridiculous reductionists. As I feel like maybe future, there's quite a lot of young people bring their soul memory, and then they start learn something new to emerging, and the new knowledge, and then to break through those barriers in between the ancient wisdom and the new technology. So that's why, okay, put this way, maybe the scientists never really say, oh, those people are caught. So they will never say that, because inside they already know the whole world have such a large sense is invisible. There's a lot of invisible wisdom existing there, and then they truly have that experience, and then they truly believe it. So that's why I hope the new human, they start a much more compassionate to accept each other, rather than put finger point to criticize the other people wrong.
Well,
I hope.
Yeah, thank you. That's probably a good place to end it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.